Hello friend, welcome back to Walking in Magic. Thank you for being here. A big welcome to all those wildflowers and mystics and seekers out there. You know who you are. This new moon in Taurus. It's amazing. It's amazing. So I'm going to talk today about what I'm feeling is really rumbling. It's like this rumbling of the earth and this big bloom, this big moment when the sky is just opening up. New moons are all about new beginnings. They're about rebirth. They're about the start point. And with everything that's been shifting and changing, we're talking about eclipses, Jupiter, Uranus conjunction, Mercury retrograde, like all the things that have been pulsing in really big ways over the past few months, over the past couple of years. This new moon in Taurus on May 8th is coming to really like bring up these cosmic wild roses. And so let's talk about that. First of all, before I dive in, I want to remind you guys that my brand new program, The Wildflower Chronicles, is available. I am recording it right now during these energies. So the first 2 chapters are available. The first 3 chapters will be available as of this new moon. And then afterwards, you can experience it at your own pace. What is this program about? And I want to talk about it and bring it up because it is the perfect time to start something like this. It's a program where I share a collection of videos, PDFs, resources designed in a portal system where we're going to go portal by portal, chapter by chapter, so that you can essentially write and experience and live your own wildflower chronicle. And what does that mean? That means that you go from a space of like dormant to blooming. That's really what it's about. And you go from a space where you're feeling maybe constrained, a little bit constricted, to breaking through, to allowing yourself to be seen for who you are. I recommend you grab yourself a binder to print out all of the incredible resources. Though that's not a resource, that's me with Mickey Mouse, my first picture with Mickey. I was showing it to my son yesterday. But you get mood boards for each chapter, and then you get each chapter with a bunch of resources and things to go through. You're also going to get, so this is chapter number 2, it's called Flower Crown. The first is Rebirth. 3rd chapter is called Vision. We're working with our intuition and our third eye, and that's going to be a juicy one. It is a juicy one. And then there's this other bonus resource I'm giving you guys called 88 Questions About Me, which really takes you through all of these prompts to get to understand and know yourself better. I have to tell you that over the weekend, I've received emails and messages from incredible women who are going through the program already, and I'm blown away by the beautiful things that they've shared. And one of the things I find most impactful for me is some of the shifts that are happening really feel like they're very deep within. And that's the whole idea and the premise of the program and the intention, is that these are shifts that happen from within and that you get to embody in your daily life. And the women, at least right now, that have shared with me, I've noticed are in different stages of their journey. Some are fully living their witchy life and have even, created themselves, are creatrixes of businesses and things where this is what they do in the world. And some are just tiptoeing into understanding what is their wildflower frequency or remembering it. And it just blows my mind because it covers all the bases. So wherever you are, this is most likely something that you will really benefit and really benefit from and love. So I give it a chance. The link is in the bio. Go check out and learn more about it. If you have any questions, you can always reach out via email. And it's priced really affordably for all the goodies that it has packed in there. So now let's dive right into this new moon. I have a poem for you guys as well that I wrote this morning. Like I was saying in the intro, this new moon is all about the blooming of dreams. This is a beautiful layout of astrological magical energies that are coming together and intertwining in the sign of Taurus to really create this platform, this fertile ground for us to emerge. There is this theme of emergence happening There's emergence and there's still the transformation. Between the emergence of these two, what do they call it? The cicadas, the two, I forget the name for it, but oh my God, broods. I think broods is the name. These two distinct broods that have not emerged. I was watching a clip about this yesterday with Jules and Skylar. These two particular broods have not emerged together since 1803. And each of them individually takes like 17 years, 13 years for the other one, but they have not emerged together since 1803. And they won't reemerge till like, I don't know, it was like 2240 something. It's a long time in the future. We have these solar flares happening. We have this new moon. We've had all these astrological things. And while, sure, we can look at these all as, coincidences. But when we look at it through the lens of the medicine woman, the lens of the witch, in my case, the lens, and maybe in your case too, the lens of the spiritual seeker, we are looking in between the lines. We read in between the lines. And not only that, but really what we do is that we notice the threads to weave the tapestry. It's not like it's happening to us and we're just sitting there like, oh my God, we are paying attention. We are living with intention. We are paying attention, sometimes to the littlest things. But my goodness, is the universe showing us these really big moments, these really big sort of symbolic things that are happening that are all intertwining. And so what do we do with that? And that's one of the reasons why I actually wanted to give birth to the Wildflower Chronicles during this time, not only for you to experience it, but for me to actually give birth to it, because I'm also going through my very own personal rebirth process. And this is part of that emergence for me in the world and the frequency that goes out in and what I choose to seed at this time. And I say that because you may find some encouragement in seeding something of your own during this time. Make it something that is actually grounded, something that you are using your abilities in some way. And you may have had some new abilities that have come online. That's something that feels like it's coming through now, is to notice which abilities for you personally have come online as of the past few months. Something that maybe was lying dormant and has emerged. Interesting too, I'm coming back to the cicadas, because while I thought the cicadas were pretty much like in a hibernation or dormant state while they're underground, it turns out that they're not. They're eating. They're like eating, they're consuming, they're basically nourishing their bodies, just going at it. They're not sleeping at all. But then there's a moment in time when they're ready to come out, and then they crawl out. And then there's another layer of further emergence, which is where they actually like shed their exoskeleton and their wings emerge. And then they go out to what? To mate, to create, to basically like amplify the production of life. And all of that is just like, it is a time to create, my friends. Another reason why I got to go back to the Chronicles, because it's another reason why there's resources in there for us to create. To create what? For you to draw, for you to pick a color palette, for you to write poetry. One of the comments I got from somebody who I've worked with for a few months, an incredible soul, she said, I've never in my life attempted to write poetry and I felt intimidated by it. I was like, poetry, me? But the way I lay it out for you is with prompt. And so she said, I'm gonna try it out. And she said I was blown away by how beautiful my poetry was. And I asked her to share it with me if she felt up for it. And she did, and I got chills when I read it, because poetry for me has been so healing. And I want all of us to have that access to understanding that you get to write your own poetry, you get to write your own story, you get to chart your course, you get to write the notes to your harmony. And one of the shifts that's happening that's a really monumental one and may have something to do with the gifts for you that are coming online is that for many of us, we're noticing this shift in the tide, this sort of shifting of a timeline that goes like this. We've been living the story that others have written for us. You've been living the story that somebody else has written for you, or multiple people, right? You've been living for that story, and now there's this shift. And if you're feeling that rumble, know that it's there for a reason. It's there to trigger your own emergence, to get you uncomfortable enough to go outside of your comfort zone so that you can actually bloom and emerge. And the wildflower and the frequency that she shows us and that we can embody and cultivate and activate within us has a lot to do with growing outside of the suburban gardens, is what I'm calling them. Suburban gardens are beautiful, but they're contained, right? And so the wildflowers are like, no, screw that. We're going to grow over there. I love all kinds of flowers, and I have a little garden myself. But whenever I notice a wildflower doing her thing, there is something about it that has this beautiful, wild, rebellious, vibrant, wise, like, I don't care where I'm planted, I am going to grow. And I don't care who says what. I don't care what anybody says. I am going to grow, and I'm going to show you my true colors. It's time to show people your true colors. It's time to symbolically, to physically, energetically, spiritually, to show your true colors. And how do we do that? Well, we begin to practice the art of stretching into saying the things we want to say, creating the things we want to create, going after the things we want to go after, wearing the things we want to wear. I cannot tell you how empowering it is to walk into your closet, your drawer, your jewelry case, your makeup drawer, and finally wear and express and show the world who you are via the symbolic power of how you adorn yourself. Not because there's a prescription to do it in a certain way, but because you give yourself permission to do it in whatever way feels good and expressive for you, and to experiment in that way. And again, it doesn't mean you have to fit into any box, quite the contrary. So it's time to be eclectic. It's time to feel empowered. It's time to buck the system. We get to buck the system and say, no more of that. And it really starts with us. I want to share something that I received from the full moon in Scorpio. This was the lunation prior to this new moon in Taurus. And the moons always work together, and these two are in the same axis, right? So Scorpio is the decay, the transformation, is that deep power of the shaman, of the witch, and that, like, going into those deep places. That's all that scorpionic energy, deep power, understanding power. It also has to do with money. Taurus, same thing. We're talking about, on the flip side, we're talking about birth. We're talking about peace. We're talking about freedom. We're talking about the senses. We're talking about Venus. We're talking about feeling embodied and grounded. We're talking about that slow living and that decadent experience of who am I and how do I get to walk upon this earth? And I choose to walk upon this earth in full bloom. And more than that, I choose to wear my joy in full bloom. I want to break that down for a second, because that's the message that I got from the full moon in Scorpio. Every full moon, I look up upon that beautiful lunar face and I ask her for a message. And in this last full moon in Scorpio, I walked outside in my backyard. I looked up, I took my drum, I drummed for a little bit. And I just felt this sense of remember your joy and give yourself permission. Have the audacity to wear your joy in full bloom. Wear my joy in full bloom. And for me, that was at least personally very liberating, because while it's that sense of joy is encoded within me, that sense of optimism, there's also a lot of me that feels so deeply, so it all exists at the same time, and a lot of it can be very paradoxical. Personally speaking, I'm going through a really difficult period of my life right now with my husband's illness, with everything that encompasses my life at this time. There's so much heaviness, there's so much grief, there's so much pain all the time. And I am also a spark of light and joy, as are you. As are you. It may show up differently for you, but you also are a light and a spark of joy. And we've been like crunched into this and fed this awfully like incorrect story of making yourself smaller, duller, less bright. And whether you identify with somebody who's, like vibrant and vivacious, or you're more of a, you're more of a, I want to say darker, but that sense. And that for me, by the way, lights up later in the year. When we get into like Scorpio season, I feel that sort of like darker, more shadowy, witchy energy within me. And right now, as we are in spring, I'm like, oh my gosh, like the wildflower that looks up at the sun and goes, hi, I am here. Watch me bloom. But the conditioning we've received is that is not what you should do. No. Keep it small, keep it hidden. And there are so many layers and layers and layers of conditioning that we've received in this lifetime, conditioning that we've been carrying, this baggage of ancestral conditioning, of everything that has said, cut yourself really like small, into a small little bite-sized piece, so that you are more palatable to the world around you. And this has nothing to do with if you're an extrovert or if you're an introvert, if you like to talk to people, or if you like to sit in a bookstore and read quietly every day of your life, and you just want to be all of those. You are multidimensional, you are multifaceted, and you probably exist in different expressions of who you are, depending on the day, depending on the season, depending on the moment of the year. This is also the beauty of working with the wheel of the year, working with the seasons. I launched this program on Beltane specifically for that, and we're still in the Beltane window till May 10th. It's just a time for you to take a deep breath and remember that my belief, and this is a belief that I will die by the sword, is that regardless of the circumstances that you find yourself in right now, you can and you get to cultivate what joy is for you. It doesn't have to look like it's the right kind of joy for anybody else except for you. This is a personal experience. And if you feel that waking of your inner witch, your inner wildflower, your inner medicine woman, your inner creatrix, you are in this process of rewilding, redefining, recalibrating who you are, then that is something that you get to honor, and you get to really fuel and feed at this time. Feed it, because it will show you blooms upon blooms upon blooms. Let's move into the poem now, because I'm feeling it. I am feeling it, and I got to wrap up in about 10 minutes time because I have to go pick up my little sun bloom, Skylar. So let me share with you this poem that I wrote this morning. And the process, again, of writing poetry for me has been one of the most healing things. Forget about the process, the permission. I remember the moment when I first wrote a poem, and I used to have all of these what's the right way to do this thing, what's the wrong way to do this thing, you got to be prepared and trained. And I want to say I honor all paths of training in terms of writing, poetry, artistry. There are people that have spent and dedicated time in their lives to form these gifts within them. So this is not to say a poo-poo on that. No, absolutely not. I have a lot of admiration for people that have dedicated their lives to honing that craft. And also, there's a whole bunch of us that maybe feel like we have not been allowed to create for the sake of creating, to create something truly beautiful, something from the heart, something that releases what we have within us, and then sharing it, maybe with the world, maybe with a close-knit community, maybe with nobody else but ourselves. But the point is that writing your own chronicle, and you could think about this as, a chronicle is a series of factual events written in chronological order. Is that not your life? When we take the time to capture the moment in time that you're in, it's one of the reasons why I love working with the moon, because the moon can be this perfect, pulse to help you write your own chronicle of your own blooming, of your rewilding, of your falling in love with your existence on this earth. When we allow ourselves and give ourselves the time and the permission and the space to capture your own chronicle, then you are, really powerfully like writing. And whether it's writing or it's art or it's singing for some of you, or it's photography, or it could be anything, embroidery, my goodness, you name it, it's all available. Give it that intention, give it that pulse of growth, and it allows your soul to speak to you and to speak out in whole new ways. I invite you to take a breath. And let's just take a moment before I read the poem to honor this beautifully fertile energy of this new moon in Taurus. And I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the moon, La Luna, beautiful and ever present. I want to say thank you to you watching this. I want to say thank you, and I want to acknowledge you for being on your chosen path. May it be so. May you declare today that you are, from this point forward, walking your chosen path. And that gets to happen no matter what is happening in your life, in the circumstances of your life. It would be great if things could change and get better. I mean, personally, not to mention collectively. Collectively, we're in a lot of pain. We're in so much pain. And personally, in your heart, I want you to just take a moment to breathe in and tap in. Because the source within you that is pulsing and whispering and sometimes screaming to emerge, to be seen, to show its true colors, is doing it because that is what needs to happen. And so begin to give that space, release the valve. It's like a pressure valve. When you begin to open the release valve of your own truth, that's when you find your freedom. That's when you find your breath. When you can quiet down the cacophony of the outside world and connect with the source of your truth and who you are and your love and your inner wild and your vibrant, wise, free-spirited self, freedom. When you can break through from the confines of the story they wrote for you and decide to rewild yourself and write your own story, to rewild your story. Freedom, breath. The moon and the wildflower. Resplendent, she rose in the night sky, dark and mysterious, but never shy. A quiet, starry magic whispered around her as the ground slowly rumbled, the rustle growing louder. In the ground, near a gurgling creek, beyond the customary confines of suburban gardens, a wildflower had bravely decided that this was the ideal place to grow once planted. This free-spirited nymph, wise and wild, vibrant and free, had promised herself that her petals would bloom and unfurl, this time for all to see. So the moon looked upon her, mother, maiden, and crone, and felt the wildflower's frequency. She felt her courage. She saw the glow. That luminous night, on the Taurus new moon, a pact was made, a promise was sown. And as the moon spoke to the flower's soul, the message was clear, the covenant set in stone. I will illuminate your powers, my dear, the likes of which you've never even known. And so with that, I bid you goodbye for this time, and I look forward to seeing you again, and I do hope you consider signing up for the Wildflower Chronicles so that you can also have those spaces to rewild your own story, And regardless of your decision, my friend, may you be wild and wise. May you understand who you are every day a little bit more and more. May you walk upon this earth in full bloom. May you wear your true colors out for the world to see. May you honor the light within you. May you honor the dark within you. May you feel the freedom that wants to express itself. And may you, from that point, contribute on to the brightening that this world so desperately yearns for. You are a bright spot. You're a bright spot. And you get to shine. And our medicine ripples on. And it touches and it grows things in spaces that maybe we won't even realize. But it is happening, and it is so. All my love and moon dust. I hope you enjoy this new moon in Taurus, and I will see you next time. Adios.